Welcome to the Wolff Den, presented by Win Again Academy. I'm Matt Wolff, founder and CEO of Ticket Time Machine. Today we have Paul Frase on the show. Welcome to the Wolff Den. How's it going?
Awesome being here. It's going great. It's going great. I'm not in snow. I'm not sure. Are you up north or where are we at?
Florida, so no snow here.
Good.
I saw some snow up north. I'm from New Jersey, and then my brother's actually in Copenhagen right now, and he said it was a beautiful day, but there was snow the night before or something like that. So it was crazy weather this time of year. I remember April, it was like April 1st or 2nd, and I was in Boston to go see a Celtics game. This is many, many years ago, and I walked outside and it was snowing.
Yeah.
April.
What years was that? Because I grew up in New Hampshire, and of course I was born in '65, but I grew up in New Hampshire, and I went through the years with Bird and McHale and Cornbread Maxwell and DJ Dennis Johnson and Danny Ainge and all those guys.
That had to be 15 years ago at least, maybe even longer.
Yeah,
we did have Bob Ryan on the Wolff Den.
Okay.
Great conversation. You should definitely, if you're a Boston fan or a fan of sports, I recommend anyone listen to and watch that episode. Just a great, a wealth of knowledge, but a super nice guy.
Awesome.
But let's talk about Paul. Give us a quick introduction as to who you are for the people who don't know, and then we'll get into it.
All right, awesome. Born in upstate New York in Elmira. Parents moved to New Hampshire. I grew up in going to high school, grade school in New Hampshire. Was able to get into. I followed in my brother's footsteps. Played football. Our town was so small we didn't even have football. So we had to bus to high school. So I didn't start playing football until high school, and then went to Syracuse University. And we were 65th in the nation when I got there, and we ended up number 4 in the nation when I left in 87-88 season. Was blessed to be picked by the New York Jets in '88. Had a wonderful 7 seasons there. Played a couple of years at Jacksonville, one at Green Bay, one at Baltimore, and now I build homes down here in sunny Florida.
That's my friends. Well, we got some long suffering Jet fans who might have some good news on the way. It sounds like they're trying to make things happen with Rodgers and OBJ. OBJ. That would be, something.
Well, it would certainly create a buzz, that's for sure.
I think the buzz is there already, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Whether they sign him or not, the fan probably will look that they made a good faith effort to make it happen.
Yeah.
Some of it's out of their control anyway, but it's nice to hear Aaron Rodgers say, "Hey, I want to play for the Jets." You wouldn't have heard that a few years ago, but obviously, they feel like they're getting close. So we'll see how that happens. How do you hear a lot of stories about not playing until later? I mean, you not playing really until high school, obviously not organized. I'm sure you played, but not organized at that level. How does that happen? When you're young, because it's not an easy thing to do. When we talk about even like Michael Jordan wasn't on his high school team or something like that. It's crazy to think that at that level there shouldn't be that many people who are so much better for someone to not be able to make a team. I mean, in your case, they didn't have it, but
yeah, so I started in my sporting career, started in Little League, right? Baseball. And then I played soccer probably 5th and 6th grade. And then I started playing basketball, and, we had all those sports in my small town of Barrington, New Hampshire. But we had to bus to Rochester, New Hampshire for high school. And literally I barely made the freshman football team. I think fortunately, I was fortunate that they just let everybody play football who wanted to, right? But in my second year, so I dressed out that freshman year, and I played a lot. And then my second year, my sophomore year, I was sitting the bench behind a kid named Wayne Rowell. He was one of those kids that had muscles on top of muscles, just like a farm strong, just a strong dude. And I never would have seen the field for 3 years, never. And he broke his leg his second game of my sophomore year, and I played. Um, I played every game from then on to the end of my career at high school. But that first game, I remember our coach Hugo Bolin. He was there for 38 years at Spalding High, Red Raiders, and he had a big film session every Sunday, and we're sitting there, and he sees me jumping around, and he turns the 8mm reel off, and whatever it was. And he stands up in front of the whole team, and he turns around. And he says, "Frase, what the heck are you doing out there?"
You can say hell on here. We've had those.
What the hell are you doing out there? And basically, I was flailing around, jumping on piles, just trying to get in the mix. And but
it's like Rudy. I mean, you're describing Rudy.
There you go. And I think initially it was probably the hustle and the discipline and the competitiveness, and then obviously I started gaining some skill. So
you need skill to play at a higher level, but the Rudy story and your story, it's a great lesson that if you do hustle and you do the work and you put the commitment in, the first thing is that you'll get noticed, which is maybe the most important thing about almost anything in our lives. If you don't get noticed, you don't get a chance for all of that, right? So you're going to get noticed. Some things you can teach, some things you can't. Some people have the God-given talent and they waste it. Some people have very little talent and they get higher. It's just whatever. It's the nature of sports. But as you're sitting there on the freshman team and sitting behind someone you don't think, obviously determination and all that. What was the biggest key to you getting noticed and getting to play for Syracuse, right? So it's one thing to get noticed and get some time on your high school team, but you're in a small school in New Hampshire and you're now going to play for Syracuse. My opinion is, I don't care who you are. If you're good enough, someone's going to find out and want to share your story with someone to get you.
I think in those days, yes, if you were good enough, you would get found. In today's world, these parents are putting those kids into AAU traveling teams at older. And they have coaches, they hire coaches, and
big business now.
It's a business now, and I made that mistake, and my daughter was a good athlete in high school, and she started playing volleyball and stuff. And I was thinking, if I got discovered from New Hampshire, small town, boy from New Hampshire, my daughter, if she's good enough, she'll get discovered. Well, that wasn't the case. These parents it's a factory. Money, unfortunately, is driven by money, and that's where the love of the game kind of, we'll see how things play out with this NIL and all that crap. But you made a point, you get noticed. I wrote a blog, and I have a little blog site, paulfrase.com, but I wrote a blog about touching the line. And you remember those suicide runs? From in basketball, start behind the baseline to the foul line, back to the baseline, back to the half court, baseline, foul line.
Yeah.
I call it the 9-line drill now because you can't, suicide's a big issue, obviously, and but I remember the coach saying, "Touch every line." And I remember touching every line. And I remember looking to my left and my right as I'm touching the line. And I see some of my teammates pulling up six inches short.
Mm-hmm.
And I would literally was just talking to my sixth grade coach, basketball coach, Mike Curran. I literally was talking to him 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I said that was a pretty tough drill. And I said, what did you want to learn from that? And he says, well, first of all, it was an insanely tough drill, and it wasn't really to get you in shape. It was to watch you and to see how you did under pressure and followed directions. And he also said, and this pertains exactly to you, what you just said, you get noticed. He also said, Paul, the kids didn't realize this, but I also use this to pick captains for the team.
Mm.
And I'm like, wow, okay. Now I'm getting chills right now. I mean, if I had taken the short route and stopped 6 inches short of the line and tried to win, I did say in the article that I got a rush out of beating the kids, most kids that stopped short, and I still beat them. So anyway,
I beat nobody. That was not a good drill for me, being slow and lazy.
well, it's yeah. I mean, you're totally right. Any, your point is well made. Anything in life, a leadership role. If you're going to be chosen for a leadership role, you better touch the line. And
Well, you bring up the leadership. I always talk about, like, there's old news in the leadership of the world and the conferences, and it's the same stuff over and over again. And it's about being noticed and then being able to get to be visible and to be elevated. So it's on some of the other people too, on who are they promoting, who are they putting out there. And that could apply for sports too, like giving someone a chance. It's that's coaching, that's ownership, that's scouting, whatever that might be. But you hope that the cream rises to the crop, and if you get an opportunity, that you have to make the most of it. But at the end of the day, you could still see if someone's good or not, whether they shoot 1 for 50 or 20 for 50, right? I mean, I can tell by looking at someone playing basketball, I think that's a good person, or an off day, or they had a lucky day and you did things right or wrong. So, I mean, that's a good lesson for people who maybe are not as talented.
it's you talk about basketball. That was probably my worst sport. I could jump out of the gym, but a layup, that technique eluded me. I couldn't do that. So you talk about the leadership. I always feel, and you've probably heard something like this, but the courage it takes to lead is born. I said this: the courage it takes to lead is born from the essence it takes that you learn from serving. I mean, a good leader, the best leaders are also servants.
What I always used to say, when you talk about management, like, I don't want to tell people what to do any more than I want to be told what to do. So
Right.
where does that leave me?
Hmm. Yeah. Well, it leaves you, if you're telling somebody what to do, they better have seen you do it before, or you better roll up your sleeves and do it beside them. I guess. I mean, it's yeah, that's we could talk for hours on that. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Were you a leader? I mean, is it, as you're trying to get up and you're hustling, which is great, what other things can you do or did you do that got you to where you were at in in the football world? Because
I was.
it's
I
impressive.
was. Go ahead.
No, it's impressive to go from a small, hey, you're a freshman, you probably never thought you'd maybe play varsity, and then you're at Syracuse, and you're like, well, I know probably, what chance do I have making the NFL? So, what did you do that ultimately got you there, other than performing? And then when did you know that you had a shot at being the one percenter?
I think so. So, taking you through that, I was not a gregarious, take charge leader. I really wasn't. And I'm kind of shy, and I was I don't want it the spotlight. I really don't. And I guess my leadership really came from touching the line, doing what I was told, listening to the coach, learning, doing. In football, it was keeping my gap, simple. But it was running to the whistle, running to the end of the play. I mean, 100%, not freaking 50, 60, 80%, 100%. It really, it's a, it,
Doesn't that seem like such a small, like a minimum bar, but yet people fail to hit? So many things that I think are just the bar is set so low, and people can't even be bothered to get to that.
yeah. Well, you look at when I finally got to the NFL, and I'll backtrack, kind of follow through what you were asking, but Bruce Matthews was a offensive guard. He played 18 or 19 years. His
Great
brother
family, right?
played.
His whole family played.
Oh yeah. Well, do you know? I thought it was Bruce and Clay brothers were the first NFL. The father played too. The father played in the
Yeah,
NFL. So
Oilers.
what's that?
He was on the Oilers.
Was he? Well, Bruce was on the Oilers. He was a little bit older than me, but their father played. Clay Matthews was on Cleveland, and then I think went to Baltimore. He was there. They both played for 18 years, and then Clay Jr. or Clay the Third played for Green Bay. And now isn't there another one in there?
Yeah, it's impressive. Like to see the families that can go, especially in football. It's not like, oh, that's your family member, so you get to go. You might get special treatment at the beginning, and maybe some people draft you. You might get the benefit of the doubt, but still, it's incredible how many people are, who got there as like brothers and fathers and son. We know the Nasibs, who are a quarterback, played at Syracuse.
Mm-hmm.
Quarterback for Syracuse, and his brother who played at Penn State defense. It's just
Right.
The lineage that goes on. It's impressive.
That's awesome. You taught, so I did not play. I did not know I was going to play in college. I just, what happened was I kept doing what I was told. I kept getting better and better. Ended up being one of the tri-captains of the Spalding Red Raider football team, and we won the state championship that year. And my coach, again, Hugo Bolin, he felt I had, I was tall, and he felt I had the opportunity to play in Division I. So he starts handing out a bunch of tapes. He finds out there's a guy, the weight coach at the University of Michigan. His name was Rusty Jones from New Hampshire. He sends a tape to Rusty Jones. Rusty takes it to the scouting department, and the University of the Wolverines thought I was worthy of at least a visit. And they also had a couple big guys that had played for the Big Blue. They were working at the Boston Financial District, so they came up on a Friday night in long camel hair jackets, and you're like, oh my gosh, the University of Michigan. And they came out and sat in the stands on a Friday night in Rochester, New Hampshire, and they felt I was good enough to at least get a visit. So I go up and I have a great time. Sunday morning, Bo Schembechler's walking around and shaking hands with the recruits and stuff, and he looks at me and he says, how much do you weigh? And I said, 212 pounds. And he literally he says, well, I hope you had a good time. And as he's walking away, I'm hearing him say it like something like, we want them big now, we don't want to have to make them big, So, so I got on the plane without a scholarship offer from Michigan. But when I got home, the phone was ringing off the hook for the Eastern Seaboard school, in Syracuse, Boston College, Rutgers. The University of New Hampshire called me 30 minutes after the end of our Thanksgiving Day game in New Hampshire because they obviously the recruiting rules and all that stuff. But now I really I didn't know I was going to play in college, but obviously I start hearing, I start getting offers. Play in college. I didn't get, I got on the field. I was a redshirt freshman. I traveled with the varsity team. I was one of 4 freshmen that traveled with the varsity team. They never had to play me, so they redshirted me. So I had a full 5 years. And I didn't play at Syracuse. I played special teams. I blew my knee out the second year. Came back. I blew my MCL out, but came back towards the end of the year, played special teams. I didn't play until my 4th and 5th year as a defensive lineman. Never the NFL. Never had really aspiration. I wasn't one of those 7-year-olds that said, I want to play in the NFL. I didn't even play, organized football until I played some sandlot, but I didn't even play organized until, 13, 14 years old. But we end up number 4 in the nation at Syracuse. We have a hell of a defensive lineman, defensive line. We had Ted Gregory. He was the number 1 pick to Denver and so on and so forth. But and all of a sudden, I go to the combines. I get the opportunity to go to an all-star game, the Senior Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
I have 2 sacks against Gerald Perry. I didn't even know who Gerald Perry was, and he was one of the greatest, right tackles in the world, in the history of football. Leon Searcy, he was one of the best. And then I had to practice against Tony Baselli the 2 years I was here at
the greatest Jaguars there. We're going to have Leon Searcy on the Wolff Den.
Leon is, he's a great guy, and he was mean. I hated going against him. He was my teammate, and I hated going against him.
Yeah,
great guy.
So, I mean, the NFL, you get into the NFL, have a successful career by anyone's standards, and then it's over. So let's get into the over part, because it's different now than it was back then for you. But you obviously found your way in business, and also had some other things happen that changed the trajectory of your life. So tell us about that.
Yeah, the transition from the NFL or professional sports in general into the real world. I was fortunate. I played 11 years in the NFL, and I got out, and basically to get into the business world, you're 11 years behind your peers, and they've been struggling and striving to climb the ladder, and they've been getting experience, and man, I don't think you can really replace that type of experience. And then throw in to my personal situation, our son Joshua was born. Our first son was born with a muscle disorder, and he was one of 55 known cases in the world. And we're like, just teach me how to keep my son alive. Allison, Joshua's mother, she was from New York, had 4 older brothers, and she was a tough New Yorker with a lot of chutzpah, right? And so we started the Joshua Frase Foundation together, and that journey was just amazing. We now know there's about 5,000 to 8,000 kids out there with the MTM, myotubular myopathy, and we lost Joshua 40 days before his 16th birthday. Our research went into clinical trials in September 19th, 2017 was the very first intravenous shot of gene transfer therapy for MTM kids. So yeah, football transition.
With Joshua, I mean, you start the foundation right at the beginning.
Yeah, we started. Allison was intent on, first of all, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even want to play anymore. I was gonna, I would try to hold the family together and keep Joshua alive. But Allison and I decided we needed the insurance and stuff. So, um, so I played. Joshua was born February 2nd, Dallas, Texas, with myotubular myopathy. I get drafted to the Jacksonville Jaguars February 15th. Tom Coughlin is a new college-inspired college NFL coach, and he wants me there by March 8th. So, and Joshua was in intensive care for 24 days before we even got him home. So basically, we come home, Joshua's home. Shouldn't 50% of these kids don't make it to their second birthday.
Yeah. So he's 16. So he beat the odds. How much does that involve the Frase Foundation and the work that you did and money raised? And
we started the foundation before his first birthday. We raised about $7 million over the next 10, 11 years. We researched at Harvard, Boston Children's, Wake Forest, Wake Forest Institute of Regenerative Medicine, University of Washington. Joshua was not able to be a recipient of anything that we were studying. It took years and years for us to get to that point. But Joshua, Allison, again, she actually went to town with, she did a biochemical breakdown of his blood and worked with Kent McLeod up in Vancouver to do a specialized formula to give him the nutrients that he was missing, because the medical community knew nothing about it. And the Joshua Frase, there was three articles written, medical journals, medical articles in 1995. And two of them were from 1967 from a doctor in New York City.
We have on charities and foundations that deal with disease all the time on the Wolff Den, and you got to think, like, it sounds bad, but it's how do you figure out where to put your time and energy and resources and money on something where there's 50 people in the world that have this, right? I mean, it sounds bad, but look, it's better spent elsewhere is probably what you hear a lot.
There was no money going into it from MDA. I think MDA was like $20,000 a year for a doctor in Oklahoma or something, but there was no real research going on. So we didn't tell the world, hey, there's only 55 kids. But
Right.
But if you read our website, you would see it.
But even now, 5,000 or 8,000 kids, that's
kids are dying. Pharma has found a way, or they're trying to find a way to make millions of dollars off of these 5,000. You going? Let's not go there, because I don't. There's some. But you're right. So a kid like Joshua in a disease, a malady like myotubular, 55 known cases in the world, no money goes to research. So Allison's like, we're going to use your platform. I had one of my buddies was in Wall Street. We knew that I had wonderful friends from the NFL. We started the Muscle Dream team in Boston. We started raising the 4 or 5 best years. We were raising about $800,000-900,000 a night. So we had one of the top 5 fundraisers in Boston annually for a while.
What was that? Just a drive, an event, a call? How do you do that?
It was literally we got first of all, we had Ivan Fears from Syracuse. He was the Patriots wide receiver and then later running back coach. So, and Mike Wojcik was the weight coach from Syracuse. He was at the Patriots at that time. So I'd say, hey, Mike and Ivan, can you guys bring a couple guys? So we'd get a couple guys over there from the Patriots, and then I'd fly in a couple guys from Jacksonville, a couple guys from the Jets. Ronnie Lott used to come out a few times. Wonderful. Fortunately, I got to meet Ronnie and play with him for a couple of years at the Jets when he was, in the twilight of his career. Wonderful people. So a lot of people, a lot of guys rose to the occasion and would come in. So we would have 15, 20 guys. And we had Wall Street. My buddy, Pat Kelly, actually his anniversary of his passing, he was my age and he died at 38 years old with a multiform glioblastoma, cancer, brain cancer. But anyway, he was in Wall Street and he was one of those 1 in a million guys. He had climbed the ladder and he had a lot of pull, and he helped us get, start raising a lot of money. And that's how it happened. And then we started researching and we started finding out, oh, wow, it's as prevalent as a Pompe disease, like one in, there's 146,000 male births. Okay. We started getting the information. We knew we were with this whole thing was orchestrated, we believe. I don't believe anything in this life is a coincidence. And quite frankly, my mother-in-law was watching TV one day, watching the Learning Channel, and Anthony Atala, one of the top 2 or 3 regenerative medicine doctors in the world, was talking about growing skin the size of a football field. And she calls his office and he calls back. And he's at Harvard, Boston Children's at that time. He puts together our muscle dream team of doctors. And he goes down to Wake Forest Institute of Regenerative Medicine a few years after that. So our influence in the research spreads.
Today, what happens when how is someone born with this? What happens? What's the life expectancy? What's the treatment? What are you guys doing to help those who are living with it and families and support? Because that's part of all what the foundation is.
Exactly. I mean, the foundation was formed before Joshua's first birthday for 2 reasons. One, we wanted to find a cure, and 2, we wanted to help, people and families with afflicted with myotubular myopathy. Yes, we went into clinical trials in 2017. We started research in 2000. I think we wrote the first check in 1997, and we had some miraculous things happen, and we've had some tragedies. But it's a public record if you researched some of the clinical trial data that some kids were got off ventilators. They're breathing on their own. We've got some kids walking. And so we've had some, wonderful success. We're on the clinical trial is on hold, and they're going back to the drawing board and making it safer. So
people, it's an interesting thing to me because it's a unique scenario, different than maybe some other clinical trials where you can live life and no one would know anything. Or you can take a clinical trial that might have adverse effects, but hey, what's my alternative, right? I mean, isn't that sort of where you're at?
So
it's tough to say with life, because who knows? But
yeah, we know because Joshua passed before the clinical trials had begun, and Joshua, he was at the age where he was aware of the research and he wanted to be one of the first to try the therapy. But he passed probably 2 or 3. No. He passed 5 years before the first therapy. But yeah, you make some very difficult decisions as a parent. Some parents um, in a situation like this, the question really comes in: are you prolonging life, or are you staving off death? What are you doing? Are you making life, worth?
Quality of life. I mean, we face that every day with people who are healthy,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
with disease. My
yeah,
grandmother, I had that conversation the other day. Like,
yeah.
what kind of quality of life did you have?
Well, it's just so Allison has actually talked to parents from, I think, every continent. They find her, through the Joshua Frase Foundation or through the network, and she'll be talking to somebody in Germany in the uh, emergency room, and the child's on the brink of death, and Allison will talk through it. Say, there's hope. There's hope. Some parents choose not to reach out, or just choose to let the child go because it's very, very, very severe and debilitating. Their APCAR, I didn't even know what an APCAR score was, but it's basically 0. They can't breathe on their own.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I mean, I have a friend whose father. We have friends. Everyone knows someone with touch with cancer. And I have a friend whose father got cancer and kind of didn't want to fight it, didn't want to go through chemo, and figured what kind of quality, and that was it. It's
And you can't,
personal decision.
yeah, you can't judge that person for
No,
making a decision.
no. I know
No.
people who want to live till they're 100 and whatever, and I'm the type of person says, look, let me see what my quality of life is when I'm 80, 85, right? Because you could be healthy, but I don't know, you still might not have a great quality of life. Like, what can you do physically? Who knows? Financially, whatever that case may be, everyone has a different feeling about it. But it's important to understand how you feel about it for yourself and how your family members feel about it in case you're put in that situation. It's not
Right,
something you
right,
want to discuss
right.
at the end. Like, it's too late to discuss.
No, no, yeah, you put in your will, or your living testament or whatever. You pull the plug if I'm a vegetable, right? Whatever that may be. So
Yeah. So
yeah,
if he, I mean, today the prognosis, even though it's better, is still not good. Someone's not expected to live past
it's like 50 to 60% do not even make it to their 18th month type of.
18th month. And how do you get this disease?
It's a genetic disease. There's over 7,000 genetic disorders. People don't. I mean, there's a lot, and that we know of, right? And there's only 329 of them have a therapy.
Yeah,
We would be number 330, I guess.
yeah.
That was our goal, of course. But you get it. It's genetic. It's X-linked. It's called X-linked myotubular myopathy, which means basically mama gives it to her boys. And
And
that,
you had another child,
yeah, Isabella, yeah,
and
yeah,
she's fine.
she's fine.
What's the conversation like, knowing, hey, we're going to take a chance, right? Or is it what
We,
the chances were not good?
yeah, it was 6 years before we went ahead and tried for another child. And Allison was working with some fertility specialists, and they actually wouldn't touch her. She was a little bit older, and they wouldn't touch her because of the age and the history of the genetic disorder. And also Allison and I would have chosen life. So the fertility doctor is like, well, if you're not going to, you know, abort this child if the child has MTM, then I'm not going to be responsible for bringing another. Well, that's the doctor's prerogative, and that. So anyway, yeah, it was a hard decision, but when Allison saw Isabella, I think it was 16 or 18 weeks on the sonogram, and Isabella was flipping around and moving and all that stuff. And Allison swears that she actually waved at her and stuff. So yeah, so that was, but it's been, but people, one thing, what we're talking about too is when Joshua died, we were not into clinical trials yet. We were still 2010. We were 2017.
12,
First
5 years or 12 or
5 or 6 years.
yeah.
And you actually had people saying, well, why are you still doing this? Your child, Joshua.
I mean, it would be kind of, I wouldn't blame anyone for stopping, but it also, you question, like, did I do this just for my son? Yeah, that's why I started it. But you would think it's gotta live on, right?
Well, this is the deal. When Allison and I were really truly reflecting on that question, if Joshua had died at 1 year old, we probably would have folded up camp.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But when Joshua did die, we had dogs that were running around that should be dead.
Yeah.
And those dogs are still alive. We've got Pavlov and Turing. They're going on 10 years old.
Do you have a sense of how many families go for additional children after having someone? I mean, I don't know if does it differ with others, like people who have a miscarriage or babies who die. I've had, unfortunately, friends of mine who have lost and they've gone on and had kids, but I think sometimes it's just more of a bad luck than a genetics thing.
Yeah.
So there's a different percentage of that, right?
It's all types of percentages, but I actually went up to New Jersey about 8 or 9 months ago, and I ran a little 5K. We did a little 5K walk for a kid. The kid wanted to do it for his two older brothers that died of MTM 12 years before. No, 15 or 18 years before. And but he was healthy. So his brothers passed away. He was healthy. We have a number of families that have two boys with MTM. We have, and back up to the people in New Jersey that we did the 5K for, they didn't really understand. Some people don't understand or don't know the genetics of it, because it was so literally 3 medical articles by 1995 when Joshua was born. Now, the foundation, you're talking about what we were able to do in the to help bring awareness. There's over 500 medical journals now. And we probably, the Joshua Frase Foundation is mentioned in the captions or whatever the credits, I guess, in probably over 300.
Yeah, I would imagine.
But you go back. Nobody's going to bring any money for research for 55 kids. Well, you got to. Joshua was born to the perfect. You're either a politician's son, or you're born to a New York Jets son with an
athlete, entertainer, someone with influence,
with a wife has got a lot of chutzpah and.
But even 5,000 and 8,000 kids, that's not a lot of kids. So when I ask every question, when I have someone, it's not like, how do you get the attention, the dollars, when there's so many other opportunities out there? To me, it's incredible to me how the amount of money and time that's put into this stuff without having to get a cure or maybe some treatment. It's hard to keep the faith on something like that. I mean, will there be a cure and a treatment in our lifetime?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I'm seeing kids that could have been dead, probably should have been dead. They're walking. I honestly believe so. Science has really come a long way. Now kind of going to your point, science is I say that our scientists chose to push beyond perceived boundaries, right? Science is just exploration. And interestingly, when we were in 2011, I think, no, 2012 maybe. We were going to New Orleans to a conference, and all the doctors, for the first time, all the doctors in the world that were working on MTM came to New Orleans. They, the head doctor, Alan Baggs, who Anthony Atala put in charge, basically. Actually, it was Lou Kunkel. He was part of the Duchenne's discovery of the Duchenne's gene up in Harvard, but his underling, Alan Baggs, was our lead guy. And basically, Alan Baggs came to me, and he was so excited. He got off a plane like at 9 o'clock. I see him at 10 o'clock at night, and we're sitting there. He walks up to me and he says, "Can you believe we're going to clinical trials?" He actually had an explicative, to say, and I've never heard him excited like that. These doctors, these PhDs, some of these best doctors in the world, treatment, you don't just create a drug. It's very, very rare that these scientists, he had never been in a clinical trial before.
Yeah.
And one of the top institutions of the world.
I mean, we're still learning about science. Like there's still science that hasn't been discovered yet. And the reality is, whoever's going to discover this treatment, science, whatever, they might not be a doctor yet. They might be
right
years old. They might not even be born yet. And so that's the hope that you have, right? Because there's always new people and new eyes on this stuff.
Right.
Almost liken it to like a cold case. My wife and I love to watch these. Well, she loves more. I'm kind of there. She watches all these people go back 30 years to solve a case. Like that's sort of what we're doing. Like we're going back to see, hey, what did we miss, or what do we have now that could be helpful that they didn't have, when Joshua was alive. And it's the advances in science are incredible. The advances in technology are incredible. But as I say that, and it's still like, all right, well, how haven't they figured this out? Like, if I give you $100 million tomorrow, that's not going to solve the problem.
Right. Yeah.
It'll help.
Joshua was heading south fast. He was leaving us probably at 6 or 7 years old, maybe younger. And I remember Lou Kunkel, like I said, he was kind of he was the head, but he handed it off to Alan Baggs. But I called Lou Kunkel, and maybe Joshua was 3 years old. It was young. Up to Harvard, and he was not there. He was in England at a conference. And I said, "Can I get his cell number?" She says, "Well, I'll patch you through." And I was saying, and he answered the phone. And I said, "Dr. Kunkel, can you tell us, is there a cure? Is there a therapy yet? Is there a cure? You're a parent losing your child at 3 years old in the hospital, and you're just grasping at anything, And I asked him like 3 times, "Is there anything?" And he finally had to say, he said he had to get stern with me, and he said, Paul, go enjoy Joshua.
Yeah, I get it. Man, it's tough. You're getting me here because I lost my dad in 2005. It's coming up on whatever, it's in June, and I knew, we found out he had pancreatic cancer, one of the nastiest disease. 6 weeks, he's gone. So we knew that you knew it was coming, but you didn't have time. And so I imagine, like, you knew it was coming, but it never came for such a while. I don't even know how you address this, but do you think that comforts you better than if, one day a 16-year-old kid gets hit by a car and dies? Like, I don't know. Neither one is good, but is there, knowing that you knew this was coming and you got to enjoy in a almost in a special way, like live like you're dying kind of way that your doctor said, I think it's powerful, right? In a way.
Yeah. So Joshua, towards the end of his life, I knew he was starting to slip, and I knew we were on borrowed time. And
Yep. We lost you for a second.
Got in a situation how we would pull the plug.
Okay.
On my son. Never I couldn't fathom. I couldn't. Anyway, he died. He died suddenly.
Okay.
So it was. I don't. It's kind of like Allison and I were like, how did this happen? Why did it happen? God, we're believers in a higher, power, and we have a faith in God, and and I really, I worked it through my mind, justified it, explained it, whatever it was. It was like God was saving us
A
from
decision. Yeah.
having to make.
That's a beauty. I even had this conversation the other day. It was like, you just hope someone doesn't wake up. That's it. Your loved one. You just hope they don't wake up, and they don't, and nothing, and that's it. That's the best, option.
Yeah.
And you'll be, it's a shocking and whatever, but for whatever reason it is, that's just the way, that would make it the easiest on everyone. I can't imagine, like, what a child feels like, knowing that the end is near and there's not much they can do. It's not like if I told you, Paul, you have a week to live. Well, you're a healthy man, right? You're going to go and do this, this, and this.
Mm.
Someone else who's sick and doesn't have the capabilities and the physical and mental capacity to do things, what brings them joy? What did you
Mm.
get to do for and with him, in the last even couple years? Because you didn't know when it was going to be that really, brightened his day.
Yeah, we were so blessed. He was he was actually a National Honor Society student. We his last 5 years, he was basically in a wagon in a hospital gurney. I'd take him to high school, and the nurse would push him through the halls on a gurney. And he never complained. He definitely knew things were slipping. He was. He was just a such a special, neat kid. I had to. He's brilliant. He was brilliant, right? And I had to dumb him down. I found out that The Office is playing two episodes every night in a row, 9 to 9:30, 9:30 to 10, and he would sit there, slap my thigh, and he'd say, "Dad, Dwight Schrute is an idiot." And
This
yeah,
Seinfeld is my favorite show of all time, and there was a joke that George made of something. Someone said, losing a child is the worst, and he said, "I know. I hope my parents go well before I do," as a joke. But it
yeah,
is truly one of the worst things. I don't have children. I have nieces and nephews. I have friends who've lost brothers and sisters and children. Also, losing anyone is tough. My father died at 63, and at the time, I didn't realize sort of how young that was.
that's young,
Now I'm approaching 47, and I'm like, well, that's 15 years away from me.
right?
And man, we have so much to accomplish. And what do you miss most about what you would have, or what do you think you would miss the most about Joshua's life if he were to get another 10 or 15 years?
I've never been asked that. Probably, oh man, probably his continuing his schooling and education and the things he liked to do and the things he wanted to do. Um, he actually was studying biotechnology in high school, but just a few weeks before he died, he told his mother, I think I really don't. I'm feeling too much stress doing the biochemistry. Maybe I'll do graphic arts and design PlayStation games. You know,
Yeah.
that's so that would have been pretty
Yeah,
cool.
the mind of a 16-year-old doesn't know. I was 30 and didn't know what I wanted to do. So none of, it's like you come up with these wild things. Well, maybe I'd do this, maybe I could do that. Joshua Frase Foundation, still raising funds, still going. Let's say we don't have money. Obviously, everyone needs money. What can people do to help the foundation and the mission of trying to get a treatment and or a cure?
I think the right now we just released Joshua's story, and it's a book about hope, love, and inspiration. It's hope from a hopeless situation. You know, the doctors, he was born, the doctors took him out of the room. They came back into the recovery room without Joshua and said, Joshua has a severe disorder. We're terribly sorry. We don't think he's going to live through the day. Wow. Okay. What do you do with that? Right. So we needed to share his story. It's about the foundation. It's about his life. It's about how he affected each and every one that took the time to meet him. The foundation is still, you know, we're still working. We want to see his dream through of a cure, our dream through of a cure. You know, we do help. We help people and families. Allison was instrumental, and during COVID, they got a ventilator down into South America to a kid that was born down there with MDM that was going to die without the ventilator, you know, at home. You know, so we do all sorts of things to, you know, data collection and all sorts of things. So, I mean, prayers, literally just raise awareness, get involved with learning about, you know, just go to joshuafrase.org, and it's the most comprehensive site in the world regarding MTM, myotubular myopathy. And there's a lot of cool stuff on there.
I forgot about the book I meant to talk about, because I thought I did, and then you didn't mention anything. I mean, that's something you say right at the top. It was released end of last year. I knew there was something, but I didn't quite sure. That's the thing about being unscripted, and
yeah,
it's called Game Changer. There's actually a lot of books called Game Changer, so maybe put Frase.
Well, yeah, there, somebody, when we went live on Amazon, my publisher was like, we're live on Amazon. And I Google it. I'm like,
Yeah.
what the, you know, there was
some weird stuff. There's some weird stuff called Game Changer.
Like, anyway, so yes, if you Google Amazon Paul Frase or Amazon Allison Rocket, it'll take you right to the webpage for Joshua's story. And I don't have a copy of it.
That's all right. We'll put it up. We're gonna push it out.
Cool. Yeah.
Tweet about it, or put something there with put a picture of the cover. But it's on Amazon. It's called Game Changer, and that's money's help support the Joshua Frase Foundation. And look, time, prayer, volunteer, just educating people who don't know about it, to be like, you know what, this is something that deserves time and attention, and you know, all of that can be helpful.
One thing, you know, we were talking about 5,000 to 8,000 kids. Our goal was to fix this and go to the next group and the next one, the next one. So eventually we'd be at 100,000 kids we're going to help. And then, you know, whatever, if we were able to help a couple million in our lifetimes, wonderful. But the fact of the matter is, these kids have something to offer, whether it's MTM, you know, Duchenne's, this, that, whatever it is. And so don't hesitate. First of all, don't hesitate to say hello to a kid in a wheelchair. And secondly, if you have some family members, or if you know some friends that have a kid with a disability, go to your friends and say, hey, you guys need a night out. Go to the movies. I'm going to stay here with your kid.
Yeah.
Or if the kid is, you know, in a situation where he needs a nurse, you don't know what one night of getting away will do for that family. Once a month, pay for the nurse for a couple hours. Say, go out to dinner.
Yeah.
And pay for your nurse for a couple hours.
Yeah.
You can't imagine
what. Do that for people who have a healthy newborn. You know? You do that for a lot of reasons.
That's great. That's a great point.
We do that when people, and I'm Jewish, so we do that, you know, when people die. If they feed, you know, we send meals so they don't have to worry about that.
Yep, exactly.
So much little things that you can do to help people, and it's a remarkable thing to raise a child with the type of disability that needs that kind of attention. We met some on a cruise, and we were playing catch with their son, who was almost 40. I think I don't know what he had, But yeah, it's just those things. And they're some of these people with who were dealt the worst hands in life are the happiest people I've ever
Yeah,
met. It's incredible to me.
absolutely.
And
You're
we
missing.
complain. I mean, I complain about whatever. I try and hold myself, but it's hard not to because we're so privileged to, and lucky to live the life that we do. And so, a little bit of gratitude and help to those less fortunate, regardless of what that means, money, all the disease, anything
Yeah.
can really be helpful. Really appreciate your time here. It's a story that needs to be told, and that's what we like to do here on the Wolff Den, is tell the stories that need to be told. And it's difficult. I know it's not an easy thing to talk about, although sometimes it gets easier to talk about a little bit, but it still brings back some stuff. So appreciate that. Check out joshuafrase.org. Paul has a blog, paulfrase.com, and Game Changer available on Amazon. We're going to let you out of the Wolff Den with the same question everyone gets. You can spend a day with anyone in the world, 24 hours. They have to be alive, and you can't be related to them. Who would you choose, and what would you do?
I suppose right now, I think it would be interesting to sit with Joe Biden and ask him about how he's doing first, not
Not
politically.
well. No president's doing well. It's a thankless job. We talk about,
Yeah,
some handle it better than others. That's my opinion.
yeah, you're right. It's the hardest job in the world, and yeah, yeah. I don't know. You sometimes, even if you didn't vote for him, you feel bad. You want to put your arm around him and say, hey, let's we
And
could
he
we.
lost a child himself too, so
Oh, did he?
yeah.
Yeah,
Biden lost a son,
yeah,
uh, lost a son and a daughter, or a son. He definitely lost a son. I'll have
yeah,
to go back and look. I thought there was a second tragedy. He's had a tough life in a lot of ways.
yeah,
Um, but a lot of people, life moves on too. That's
yeah.
the unfortunate thing, is life moves on. You kind of gotta deal with the hand you're dealt, and do the best with it. Biden he's been said before. Presidents a bunch of times. I got someone we're gonna make a list, but I always say if we get enough money and influence, and hey, the Joshua Frase Foundation, you might be able to get to meet Biden before I'd be able to help you out with that. But he's on the list, and it's a great choice. Again, check out the website, buy the book, ask questions, help how you can. We all need is all the help we can get, to get anywhere, and no more important than people raising money and doing work for people in need. And so appreciate your time again, and we'll look forward to seeing what comes next.
Awesome. I appreciate it. It's just thank you for helping us share the story.
Always. We'll
Thank
have you back on down the line when the trials come back.
you. Amen. All right.
All right.
See
Thanks, Paul. Have a good one.
you. Bye.